What's up, guys? Iceman here. Welcome to Meditations. Like this video if you will, subscribe to the page, and pull that bell so you're notified next time I post a video. So the topic of discussion as of late has been, of course, the millennial reign. And did it already happen? And I know there's a lot of doubters. Of course, the theory goes that Jesus said this generation will not pass before all these things come to fruition. He said to the disciples, you will not make it through all the towns of Israel before all these things occur. And he said a couple other things. Like, some of you standing here won't taste death until you see me coming from the sky, right? And then apparently there's like that Josephus, is that how you say that? That one guy? All those ancient texts. And he says that he saw the battles in the heavens and this and that. He saw all those things take place. Who knows? And then the other thing is that we're in the little season where Satan has been released for a little while from his bondage to deceive the nations. And it definitely seems like we could be in that, right? I mean, who could deny? Have you looked around? The news, academia, entertainment, video games, media, movies, TV. It's everywhere. Deception all over the frickin' place. All right. But here's what I propose to you in terms of just wanting a response. All right, I'm curious what you guys have to say about this. What a wicked time we live in, huh? You know, it's strange because ever since I was a little duck, I would look around and it'd be like, what's this all about? That was like the 90s, all right? When the world was all right, wasn't it? Comparatively speaking. Or was it? Just from what we know anyway. I guess that was before the widespread of internet, this and that. But I'd look around and I was like, wow. Everything dies. You know? It's like, everything suffers. And then it dies. I was like, what the heck? It's like, what is this thing all about? I was like, why would you do that? You know? I thought to myself, why would you do that? It was like there's just a bunch of pain and suffering. And it is acquainted with the fall of man, right? The biblical perspective, where it says there will be sweating from the brow, a toiling of the ground, suffering and death. It's pretty much guaranteed, isn't it? And that's what happened. That's where we are. Who knows if that's what happened? But that's the biblical perspective, and that's definitely where we are. Is that suffering and death are prevalent and inescapable, it seems. But then I started making my way to adulthood, all right? And I started saying to myself, I'm never going to have kids. Granted, I was having a good time in my teenage years, my late teenage years. I was playing video games. I was just enjoying my privacy, walking through the woods and trails, things like that. Enjoyed myself with a few women. And of course, there were always the horror stories. Oh, they get nasty later. They'll divorce you later. I've seen it as well. You'll be screwed in terms of losing all your assets, this and that. But I mean, I saw the other side of that also. The man being dissatisfied with his life. The man wanting to leave the home. You know what I mean? The man just not being pleased with his lady anymore. So, I mean, I saw all these variations. I was like, huh. There's almost something liberating about it, which is a bit distasteful for me now, thinking back on it. Where I'd almost pridefully feel like I was going against the grain, saying like, yeah, I don't want to have kids. The reality was, I just don't think I wanted to take on the responsibility. I mean, I saw how hard people had to work. It was like, there's enough concerns as there are on my own. Imagine being so responsible for a life that you subjected to this existence without it having a choice in the matter. There's a bit of pride in it as well. I was like, yeah, I'm not going to subject anyone to that. I'm not going to subject them to this cursed world, this perhaps cursed existence, right, is what I'd say to myself. But a lot of it, I think, had to do with I just didn't really want the responsibility. But there was a sense of pride in the idea, maybe even, I don't know if it was entering the territory of thinking I was better than God at that regard. It's like, look what God did. Look at this hell we're all subjected to now that we never asked for. Oh yeah, Adam and Eve, where we derived from. Oh yeah, they did it, so we deserve punishment too. Do we really have anything to do with that? And it was all set up by God anyway, Like he's the one who created all concepts. All things that are imaginable and non-imaginable. He created them. So he created this. So part of me was like, I wonder if it was touching along the lines of, you're better than God. Because God cursed us to this existence. But I, however, will not curse another life to this existence. It's kind of my train of thought, but that I had before. But then, of course, the more modern times came around where, you got all that woke crap. You got all these folks, just how trendy it became. I didn't mean for it to become trendy. Back when I was passionate about that ideology, it wasn't like a woke thing or whatever. I don't think. It was probably on its way there. It was probably planned to be that, but I didn't know that. But, then you have the later days like the past decade or two where just how trendy that is. To say, oh yeah, they're bad for the environment and all this other stuff that they tell us, that the rulers and powers and principalities of this world teach us as truth, so-called. They're like, oh yeah, they're bad for the environment. They're destroying the environment. Don't you dare have children. You evil one. It's kind of like the message, And then you got all these trendies like jumping on it. And it's probably going to be to their detriment. Just like it'll probably be to mine. But I never said that it wouldn't. So my thought on that has changed a little bit. I was like, screw that. I'm not going to be some self-righteous thing, thinking I'm doing the planet a favor or something, as if it deserves a favor from me. I'll curse this thing as it is, What good has the world done for me? Decay and rot and death. Do I really owe Mother Nature a service of a sort where, I'm not going to reproduce and, make another carbon emitter here? You know what I mean? I was like, it's bitter. You could be bitter about it as well. It could stir up things like that within. So I was like, okay, I like people who have kids. Yeah. If these rulers and principalities are going to tell us what to do, they're going to tell us how evil we are for doing the most basic act of human nature, whatnot. The continuation of our species, or whatever you want to call it. Then I say, let's stick it to them. You know? They're not going to take that away from me. But of course, I still haven't had kids. And I don't know if I will. But I definitely see the benefits in doing such. And how if you don't, well, they give you a focal point, right? Where to focus your energy. And they probably make you a lot less selfish, because you're kind of forced to be selfless. But I mean, this video isn't really about the pros and cons. I'm just kind of curious, what do you guys think about that? Like, is that a good or bad thing to reproduce, you know what I mean, in this cursed world? I mean, isn't it kind of messed up that, like, we live for a little while, and, like, we maybe gain all these things? You know, maybe we'll get, like, a nice wife and kids, whatever. But then the things around us inevitably fall away and die. And then we go back into the ground as one all over again. And there we are, we just lost it all. You know what I mean? It could be heart-wrenching. The thought of subjecting one to that existence and the inevitable life of pain and suffering and just trying to avoid it as much as possible. I don't know. What do you guys think about that? And some would say, well, Iceman, the Bible says to be fruitful and multiply. Yeah, it did say that, didn't it? That was before the fall. That was before everything was fucked. All right? There's really not a better way to describe it. God told us to be fruitful and multiply. When everything was great and there was no death and suffering. All right? So what now? Isn't it like the teachings in the New Testament where Paul goes on about how it's better to not even marry? Because the troubles that could bring your life. It's better just to serve God or whatnot. But I mean, I don't know. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of like the little arc that I've had in that whole philosophy. And honestly, I can understand both sides. You know? But I don't think there's much escaping the fact that you are subjecting a life without its consent to suffering, pain, loss, and then death. You know what I mean? So why would you do that? I'm not trying to argue the case, sorry. I mean, what do you guys think about that? I mean, I guess you could say, well, here's the counter to that, I think. You could say, well, new heaven and new earth, this and that. They're going to be resurrected in the resurrection, whenever, however that is. And maybe they'll take on the new heaven and new earth. They'll be immortal, incorruptible bodies. You know, so that could be a good thing, right? But if you're one who thinks that, like, a good percentage of humanity is going to be damned to hell for all eternity and endless suffering and torture, and that's going to be kind of tossed up in the air the second you create a life form, whether or not they enter that or not, then you are subjecting them to, like, endless torture. You know what I mean? So I guess if you believe that, then I would say that's pretty messed up. And is that what God did? He might have or he might not have. It's an arguable thing. You know? Colossians 1:20, is that what that is? And there's more like it in Ephesians. The reconciliation of all things. You know? Jesus Christ in all and through all. The reconciliation of all things brought back unto himself. So I don't know, the whole endless torture thing, what do you guys have to say about that? And what about this whole producing offspring and the current iteration that we find ourselves in? What's your opinion on that as well? Sheesh, I'm curious what you guys have to say about that. So if you will, comment below your thoughts on these matters. Like this video if you will, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace be with you.